and we are here for a work session. And as always, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Ken, can you please take the lead?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ken. We have no announcements today, so we're going to get right into it. Our first discussion item, which is with Peter Ballard of the Conscience Bay Group regarding the possibility of bringing a soccer facility to Veterans Memorial Park. Councilman Curran, you have been leading the charge on this topic, and can you tell us a little bit more about it, please?
Sure. And I'd invite Peter up to sit at the table. So, Peter, who I was fortunate to meet,
Would you like me to sit here?
yes,
Sure.
yes,
Thank you.
was willing to, and I've spoke to Ray Coyne prior, bring indoor soccer and lacrosse facilities to Veterans Park, as well as create 2 outdoor soccer fields in Veterans Memorial Park. And this would all be donated to the town. Peter's company would operate these facilities, and these would be located just north of where the hockey skating rink is going to be. And it's my understanding that this kind of thing, whether it's the skating rink or soccer, this has been, the town has put efforts in since 2005 to get these kind of things into Veteran Memorial Park. So with that, Peter, I thank you for bringing this to the town, and do you want to explain a little bit about it?
Sure. First of all, thank you for your time. I appreciate the opportunity greatly. Bob's been tremendous helping me out with this, and thank you again. So as Bob was indicating, the hockey facility that looks to be, I guess, part of Veterans Memorial Park, just north of that, there's a swath of land that I had been talking to Bob about potentially putting soccer fields outdoor and then indoor facilities. So the idea would be to have 2 international-sized soccer fields, which would encompass 320 by 190 feet, so they can be utilized on any level, whether we're talking about children in the kindergarten level all the way up to college. Those fields also can cater to lacrosse, field hockey, so it's a full-length size field. That land there's enough land there easily to accommodate 2 large fields, and then also the concept would be then to have 3 indoor facilities or buildings. The buildings would each be 100 by 150 feet, so about 15,000 square feet. That is about a quarter of the size of the soccer field. So currently, that swath of land enables the capacity for those 3 buildings, thus being around 45,000 square feet. Given the demographics that I've been looking at and everything that goes on, obviously, the outdoor facilities are a huge demand, as we all know, and the indoor, it seems to be something that kind of stops as you get to the Huntington area, where they just don't cater as much as you get further out east for the indoor. So I think that really is something that's needed, especially on the North and South Forks, and Riverhead being so centralized provides so much of an opportunity for all of those townships, but especially for Riverhead, as your guys are growing tremendously with these school districts. So what I'm hoping to do would be able to develop these 2 outdoor fields, donate those to the town of Riverhead, and then build the 45,000, 50,000 square foot indoor facility. The indoor facility, again, would be donated to the town as well, but the conceptualization of the indoor facility would be these 3 indoor facilities with a entrance room. Basically, the entrance room or office would have a reception desk where you first come in, you check in. Again, security will be cameras inside that reception area, also within the indoor facilities, and also indicating the back outdoor fields. But as you enter the reception desk, there'll be somebody obviously there 24/7. I'm hoping the hours kind of accommodate more of the schools, so we're talking about probably open at 8 a.m. for town members, people that are, I'm looking at maybe retirees to have maybe pickleball in that area to kind of have for town residents, because I know that's been a growing interest. but from 3 to 10 is when you're really looking at the children, and that's the time that I think we'll see the most demand for the indoor. But beyond the reception desk, I'm hoping to have in his and her bathroom, and also a room that we can cater to special events for birthdays, if there's going to be corporate events that occur, and things of that nature within this building. Again, the concept that I'm really trying to hone in is growing up in Long Island. I played soccer throughout my childhood, and I played for my college that I went to, Hamilton College, and lacrosse. The demand is just exponential, and I saw it the last 2 years, obviously with COVID, the need that's gone on this past summer, where I have a lot of relationships with travel lacrosse and travel soccer, and the lack of facilities. So I think it's a great opportunity, and I think it's a tremendous thing for the children, especially as we want to continue to offer to both forks. Some of the talent that's coming out of these areas, excuse me, on the male and female levels is remarkable. And the women, lacrosse in particular, we have some huge names that have been attending Boston College, Northeastern, and UNC. They've been in the Final Four this year. And I just hope it continues to grow and I can be a part of that.
So Peter, you also, in our conversations, you agreed to, Ray, do you want to come up?
I was just going to call him up.
I'm so sorry, Ray.
So, Ray-
No, I'm fine back here, but I'm...
No, come on, Ray.
Ray, we need your input. I'm sure you've been briefed on this, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so can you just give us your input on this?
How are you? Nice to meet you today.
I'm sorry,
How are you?
I meant to get you guys.
And Peter, what's
together.
your last name?
Bellard, B-E-L-L-A-R-D.
Right, okay,
yes.
just double checking.
And I apologize too, I know the initial name, the conjures bigger. There's no need or affiliation if we want to talk about changing something that suits the town of Riverhead. It works. It was just a name that I have a business entity that I was
Got it.
utilizing.
Okay.
So I would love to work with the town to get something that sounds a little bit more proper to what we're trying to do.
Great,
Yes.
thank you. And Ray, can you just give us a little of your opinion on this project, possible
I'm really
project?
coming into this. Bob just briefed me very quickly on what's going on. He asked me to come today to learn more about it, so I'm kind of learning as you go.
So if I may just continue, so you've also agreed to pave the 72 spaces and stripe that. In addition, in the second year, you would start to, which will be TBD, to be determined, some annual payments that would go towards that facility.
Correct, yeah, so I apologize. The parking lot component, as Bob indicated, is 72 spots currently running north-south off of, I think, which is kind of like a bike path right now. So 100% will be donating and paying for that. And then on an annual basis, I'd like to kind of just see come year 2 where we are, but then help, make donations annually to the Veterans Memorial Park.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions, unless you're ready to go. So first of all, there is a great need for this. I'm a sod farmer by trade, and we've been approached many times to try to run little ad hoc tournaments on our farms. Became too much. We've done a couple successfully, but it became too much just with the rotation of our inventory and the placement of it. That happens all over the East Coast, by the way. Sod farms down in South Jersey and in Pennsylvania and up as far as Rhode Island do the same thing because they're so short of available fields. So I understand the need for it. I'm curious, how many acres in total are you asking from the parkland over at Veterans Memorial? I know you said the size of the individual fields, but I'm just curious as to what the sum of the total acreage would be.
So it probably could get done around 4.5. In an ideal world, to have the two 320 by 190s with the possibility of a third outdoor would be 6 acres.
Okay, so your ask to the town is, we want to come and do this, please set aside 6 acres for us.
Okay.
That's essentially what you're asking.
Ideally, yes,
Okay,
yes.
I just wanted to get that
Yeah.
out in the open. The indoor, obviously, would be some kind of a artificial turf field.
100%.
Outdoor, natural, I'm
Correct.
assuming? Okay.
Correct.
And then the other question that I had was, you know, how are you going to, in concert with the recreation department, make this go for the residents so that this is a benefit to the residents of Riverhead? So that was the sum and total of what I wanted to ask.
Yeah, I mean, just from the, you know, I've walked the property a few times, and there's some grading that needs to be done. There's no question of that. It's nothing that extensive. You know, quick background of myself. I am by trade a currency option trader. I've been in Manhattan since 2000. I've been living along my life, but I've moved out here permanently the last 4 years to Setauket with my wife and 3 children. I work in Huntington. My office is there now due to COVID, and since 2010, I've been in the real estate market as well. So I have a business where I, you know, can facilitate the grading and do certain things of that nature. So the knowledge is there, understanding that component. I've also looked into the sprinkler, irrigation, and water aspect of that, which I would provide. So all of that I'm very comfortable and confident on. You know, that can be done in those fields quite easily, and the safety, obviously, of the irrigation is important. That's the research I've been doing, you know, on and off the fields. Other than that, you know, obviously like to, you know, touch base with Park and Rec going further on the usage. The idea would be to provide, you know, the goals, the corner flags, you know, lining the fields, anything else that might be, you know, needed for usage by Parks and Rec or town, or coordination with the school districts for usage of the fields. That's something that I want to be part of going forward.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I have a few questions. Are you a 501c organization?
No.
No, okay. And how are you gonna, where are you gonna obtain the funds to operate? Are you looking for the town to fund the operation?
No, fully funded.
Fully funded from,
would you-
from creating it to operational?
Yes.
That's
correct,
great.
Correct.
That's great to hear. And I'm gonna advise you, Mr. Bellard, that we do have a recreation superintendent. He is charged with helping develop our recreation. We have an advisory board, a recreation advisory board, and some of this stuff has to be put before them. And they should be working in conjunction with you, with yourself, and in particular the town attorney, because there's a MOU that has to be prepared, and it's gonna be quite complex, because
Okay.
we are utilizing
Okay.
town, public, open space.
Right.
We're repurposing it for good reason, obviously, but there are legal protocols that we need to follow. And Ray, can you make sure that all the protocols are followed and the advisory? And I would make a recommendation for you to make a presentation to the advisory. We have a advisory committee.
Okay.
So everybody is open about it, and we don't hit any walls.
Perfect. Absolutely.
Peter, the 3 buildings, the 3 indoor buildings you're showing, is it one building and just going to be partitioned off inside, or is it 3 separate freestanding buildings?
So initially, I was looking at 3 like freestanding buildings with a corridor, kind of like a hallway that would come off of that entrance building. With some of my research, I've been finding that the demand for 7v7 and 9v9 is so great. Given the fact that we have that space, I'm contemplating, actually, I'm more towards leaning towards doing one 100 by 150, and then one building that might be 125 by 250.
That's where I was going with this.
Yeah,
So
no,
you could change the field
phenomenal,
size,
yeah.
right, and not be
Ideally.
handcuffed by 3 separate buildings.
100%, that's
Yeah.
that's the goal, and that larger building, again, the concept would have that hallway in the middle of the 2, so Fieldhouse 1 would be the smaller, Fieldhouse 2 would be the larger. The middle of that larger building, I'm thinking, because it's gonna be 30-foot high, that gate in the middle, running mesh lines to divide, so if somebody
Right.
wants to split it up, that's how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, that would make more sense.
And the nice thing about the 125 is I can run a mesh going across on the longer, the 250 side, kind of 10 feet off to enable the parents to line up to watch. There's such a demand, obviously, for that. So they can get in, doesn't cut into the width of the field, and the 7v7 is there all day for lacrosse and soccer.
Good. Perfect.
So I have a couple of questions. So let's talk about the maintenance on it. So you're saying you're gonna build out the soccer fields outdoor, put irrigation in. who's cutting the grass? Are you maintaining the grass? Are you striping the fields, or?
I mean, again, that's something that I wanted to talk to, Parks and Rec about and get into that. I didn't really have any knowledge of how that would kind of like coordinate with the two, so, I don't want to speak out of turn on land or what's not, so, again, it's the first time I've had the opportunity, so I'd like to kind of engage on that.
When do you, and I'm just leading up to another question, is when would you expect this project to come to fruition?
Kind of
Over the next
utopian
year?
world. I would ideally love to have this, I could visualize having the fields going in the summer, like June, but the indoor I'd love to have open for the school year of '23.
So the reason why I ask those questions is that currently our building and grounds is a little overwhelmed in terms of trying to maintain just the baseball fields and other things, as Ray can certainly contribute that. They work extremely hard, they're short-staffed. This would, I think, would require us to make adjustments in next year's budget if we're going to have soccer fields and so forth, and that if the building and grounds, it's building grounds that cuts the baseball fields and stuff, right?
They cut the lawn, yeah.
So that, if there has to be an expansion to maintain this, they're gonna need more staff, then that needs to make adjustments in our budget going
Okay.
forward for next year. Otherwise, we're simply not gonna have the funds to do that.
Okay.
When, what are you concerned, when you build the buildings now and you're operating them, are you looking at a lease or what we did with Bukanakaki as a managerial contract? So who owns these buildings and they're constructed?
And so I don't know the contract with Extend Hockey or Peconic, excuse me.
So they purchased the building, they're erecting it, and when it's fruition on opening day, they're basically turning over the keys to the town and saying, this is your facility, so we will own the bubble, we'll own the deck hockey, it's all owned by the town of Riverhead. So when we're constructing buildings now on the property, so you're paying for the buildings, and do they become the property of the town of Riverhead? And that also leads into the next step of maintenance, who's maintaining buildings. So you're maintaining, but I'm also talking about like roof equipment, air conditioning, ventilation, things like that.
I had the mindset of maintaining and operating from the get-go and continue to, so the thought, when talking to Bob, was a lease. The term of that, I still don't know, but in an ideal world, it would be a lease. I would then be donating these buildings to the town, and I'd be operating on those buildings for the time of that lease.
Yeah, so
Correct,
I think it'd
maintaining.
be a license agreement.
Yeah.
But that, whatever it is, I don't want to get involved in semantics, but it would be very similar to what we're doing hockey.
Yeah, so there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these questions, and they're appropriate questions, there's a lot of work to be done. But our town attorney just finished doing a very comprehensive plan. Finally, that was, the final project was beneficial to the town, which I was finally happy to see. Initially, it wasn't. So that's something that you would have to work, you have an attorney, I'm assuming?
Yes.
To address this. And the town attorney and recreation will have to work out the details and present it to the board for approval.
Okay.
So it's just the beginning, there's a lot, some work to be done.
I do have a question. What is it what's your business model? Obviously, you're for profit, so
Yes.
you're building this for profit.
Correct.
So where does Riverhead, where does my department fit into this business model?
Well, I mean, the concept is to donate these outdoor fields for use. As Councilmember was talking about with regards to tournaments and things of that nature, that's something that I was interested in looking into, but I think with 2 fields, sometimes that can be difficult. But the concept was to donate the outdoor fields and then to work in conjunction with the town to have times that residents of Riverhead have access to the indoor fields
Yes.
for free, like a free pass.
Right, there has
So-
to be a community benefit
Yes.
from your operation, and that's again,
Who controls that? Who controls the times and that? Is that something we?
negotiate.
That's what I was correct. Again, the fields, there is no negotiation. Those are yours at all times. So
So we can plan out the field, rent out the field, run tournaments on those fields anytime we want?
100%. So that is 100% donated to town, whatever you'd like to do. The indoor component, I would like to, talk further about it. I had ideas, as I mentioned with the pickleball. There was a concept in a letter that I had written, and again, I apologize if we don't all have it. I have these here for everyone, to make almost like a pass, like a residence pass. So any town of Riverhead resident has access to come in to use the facility at certain times. And again, it's indoor turf, as we elaborated earlier, but the conceptualization that I've been looking at is not just soccer and lacrosse and field hockey for the children, I'm thinking that during the downtimes when the kids are at school, that pickleball can be utilized. And the more research I do, they do play pickleball on turf. So I'm hoping to, to kind of maybe look into adding that as well.
Well, it's the beginning.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, seems
And again, I would stress that, that Ray, you take the lead in working with Mr. Ballard and the town attorney and see what you come up, and I'm sure there'll be some type of license agreement developed, and we're probably gonna be going back and forth, but,
Okay.
Anybody else have any other questions? No, we're good?
No, not at this time.
Well, thank you for presenting
Thank
here
you.
today, and you be safe, sir.
Appreciate you too. Do you want any of these or?
I think we have copies already, and Devin,
Okay.
are these up online?
No, I'm not aware if they are. I mean, I don't have
Okay,
anything like that.
any paper, anything that comes before board
Oh, I'm
for
sorry.
transparency should be online, but that's okay.
Okay.
We can add it today.
Okay, I apologize for
I
that.
did give it to Devin yesterday.
You gave it to Devin, okay, we're just
Okay.
double checking. Can you get her to, see if, make sure they're online, because I'm sure people are gonna be interested after this discussion, and they wanna see what's going on. Thank you so much.
Thank you again.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ray.
Thanks, Ray.
A little bit.
Keep us surprised, Ray.
Yeah.
Everything is posted online. Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you, Bob, and thank you, Peter. And for our next discussion item, I'll ask one of our planners, Matt Charters, to please come forward to present the most updated iteration of the proposed code addressing anaerobic digesters. Councilman Kern, I know you've been working closely with Matt on this matter, and can you start off and share your thoughts?
Sure. So, we all know garbage is a huge issue. The expense to get garbage off of Long Island is a huge issue. The fact that an anaerobic digest, well, in fact, about 40% of garbage is food waste. An anaerobic digester will take that food waste. Is good. And Matt, I want to thank you for the really taking a deep dive and doing your due diligence on this. We're reaching out to the planners in Connecticut, where they have a successful operation that's expanding. In addition to the fact that there are over 1,200 of these digesters throughout the country. And it's not an experiment on Riverhead. You know, sometimes when things come new to a town, people think we're like this, we're an experiment. We're not an experiment. So, but thank you. So you,
Yeah, as Bob said, we've been working on this for a number of months. It's gone into the revision. For everyone who hasn't, wasn't present at our last discussion, basically an anaerobic digester processes organic waste as they come into the waste stream. So it goes in, they get broken down in the absence of oxygen. You get two products out of that. You get what's called digestate, which is kind of the leftover, and then you get biogas, which can be processed and used to produce electricity. So the code you have before you, I hope everyone's had the opportunity to review it, is kind of about proper siting and what kind of anaerobic digesters would want in the town, where they would go. To start, we're looking at prohibiting biosolids in the anaerobic digester if they're situated within the town of Riverhead. So biosolids are basically, it's equivalent to septic, sewer treatment, sludge from a sewer treatment plant. That's in the definitions of this. With the concern that these biosolids might contain some sort of pathogen, because there is the possibility for digestate to be used as a fertilizer. So if, some sort of human waste is going into the digester and then being used as fertilizer, there's a lot of rules and regulations about what kind of crops that can be used on, and then the possibility that there's some sort of pathogen that's been on your food crops. So to eliminate that, I think that's a big plus for the town that kind of takes a lot of environmental concerns out. In terms of citing, the way we've drafted this is it would only be permitted in PIP. That's on the third page of the draft law, the planned industrial park in Calverton. It would require a special permit by the town board and site plan review by the town board. If you see number 1 on the requirements, it is that the applicant would have to demonstrate compliance with New York State Code for anaerobic digestion facilities. I did print this out for your benefit, just so you can see the level of review that the DEC requires. For an anaerobic digestion facility, Jessica will give that to you. It is not an easy process, so someone is not going to walk in.
Is that online?
No, but we can make sure it goes online.
Okay.
Um,
But whatever you have, put it together, so,
We'll give it to them.
Thank you.
The law is up. This is, really for your benefit to see, what someone would have to do. It's require state permitting and state monitoring. There's a lot of performance standards that would have to be made on the state level before a permit by the DEC would ever be
do
issued.
you have any extras? Tim?
Yes.
So,
There's two extras.
thanks. Tim and, Alex, did you want a copy of that?
Yeah, that's the state code. The second thing we're looking at is the processing and storing of materials would all have to occur inside a fully enclosed building. We don't want anything outside, there could be associated smells,
Devin,
leachate, et cetera. And then to,
Give me an extra copy of the.
I
yeah,
can-
take mine.
yeah, I can email it to them as well.
Yeah, but she's gonna put it online, because everybody's gonna wanna
Okay.
see.
Like I said, everything would have to take place inside an enclosed building, and then some performance standards that, an applicant would have to do to demonstrate that they're, taking careful consideration to the environment. I've listed in number 3, so prevailing wind patterns, proximity to other properties no matter what the use is, operational noise, specific hours of operation, including truck and rail traffic. I'll get into that a little bit later. Depth to groundwater, flood hazards, any impacts for open space, primac soils, historically and culturally significant resources, conservation areas, scenic corridors, central pine barrens, and proximity to town, state, or federally regulated wetlands. Outdoor storage or outdoor transfer materials would be prohibited. And then finally, that the facility shall be located within 1,500 feet of a rail spur connected to the LIRR, and include a narrative outlining the materials arriving to and from the site. And we're asking for a traffic impact statement also to see how many trucks are coming in from the site, how much is going by rail, et cetera. So,
And we don't have anything in the comprehensive plan regarding anaerobic digesters.
correct.
And now I see here that there is a recommendation to locate it near the, rail spur.
Yep. In the PID, which is, where similar and heavier industrial uses are already considered in the town, so that's why we thought this was a good place to locate.
So we're looking at the possibility of changing code, correct?
Correct,
And
yep.
then we're looking at a possibility of identifying the location where it's gonna be. But thereafter, any application has to be thoroughly vetted. And we don't know, we don't wanna become the East End distributor of
I think that's a
that
valid,
byproduct.
it's a valid concern.
And it should be, in my opinion, and we'll see if anything comes in, any projects, it should be exclusive to Riverhead. We're not gonna account for the East End to move around these byproducts, so that's something down the line. Apparently, I'm sure there's gonna be an application coming in on this. We wanna make sure that we keep it, that it's local and it's to benefit our residents. Thank you.
I have 3 questions. I know you were in touch with Southington, right? So I have 3 questions. And I understand you, how did they address the traffic there and the smells? What were their requirements in
So
Southington?
smells, as far as I know, it's similar to New York, it's regulated by the state where they have to comply. They have essentially an odor control plan that has to be approved by their state.
Right, but I'm just, when you said self-contained, I just don't want to reinvent the wheel. I'm just curious what they did there, number 1. Number 2 is the fact that they're not manufacturing fertilizer.
Correct.
And I don't know the answer to this, and I'm aware that there could be contaminants in biosolids. But I don't know that because it's my understanding they make these cakes that
Yep.
then get shipped out.
Correct.
So is it the job of the company that's taking those cakes and making it into fertilizer, is it their responsibility to make sure that that fertilizer is safe and not ours? Because they're not making fertilizer, and what I'm leading to is, have you spoken to Michael Reichel at all?
I've sent requests out, I haven't heard anything back specifically
Okay,
regarding
because I would
but
be
we can, yeah.
curious,
I think
given
it's
the
a great
fact
person.
that, sorry.
Okay.
I'd be curious, given the fact that we're spending $10 million at the sewer treatment plant, right, in order to mitigate spending $600,000 a year getting rid of waste. If there is any opportunity, and I would like Michael to weigh in on this, I don't care if they take a ton or whatever it is, but again, I don't know the process after these guys make the cakes. I'm a fertilizer company, I'm not putting contaminants in there because my liability is through the roof, right? Across the country, wherever I'm distributing. So I would like to, before we get onerous on biosolids, like to get some knowledge on that.
Michael's definitely the guy.
Yeah, I've reached out.
His byproduct turns out to be Class A biosolids, which is this clean fertilization that you can offer from the process.
Milorganite.
Milorganite type of a biosolid, so, yeah, I think his input would be really key in this. And certainly, any business entity that came in would have some kind of ability to share information and maybe even some of the product. I think that would work really well.
Matt, I got a question. We
Sure.
want to limit the distances. I mean, for any business that comes in here, we were originally talking about code revision, maybe 40 miles or so. That was pretty much from here to Montauk or Suffolk County. But I think in our town code, there should be limitations towards where this is coming from, that we're not the receiving point of New York City. And I just don't see, I may remember saying it, but we're going to put
I was just gonna ask the same thing.
Yeah, I
don't
want to
see
get a feeling from the full board to see what
Okay.
a comfortable distance was that you wanted to regulate this
That was
at.
exactly my point
Yeah.
a few minutes ago. Where's it coming? And we're not
Where's
gonna
it
be.
going, yeah?
Yes.
What is it?
We're not gonna be servicing, like he said, outside or, the rest of,
West, yeah. Or
west or
wherever.
even east.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's gonna be a cause of burden to us, then possibly we might have to expand and, yeah, so there's a little bit of work to be done.
I think so, yeah, absolutely. I think
I
it's a
like the
concerted
idea of
point.
it being near the rail.
Yeah.
and Getting some of the 18-wheelers off the
Off the road. Traffic is a
expressway.
concern, yeah.
I think that would be really ideal.
So is the rail utilized for importing or exporting?
But that would have to be specified. That's why we asked for a narrative to say, how are you going to use the rail? How are you going to use trucks? What's going to be the distribution for
impact.
each? Yeah, is it going to be coming in by a truck? Is it going to be coming in by rail? Is it a combination of both? They'll just have to demonstrate exactly what they're going to do.
If you have a limited radius, then the most logical outcome would be that it would be for the produce or excess leaving the plant, not coming into the plant.
That's what I think, because I don't know the cost feasibility of if we do a 40-mile radius or something like that. That we're gonna
Right.
truck it to a train to go 40 miles to the site.
Rail
I don't
service
see it.
around here
So
freight is pretty minimal.
Our next discussion has to do with the comprehensive plan and expanding and all these logistics centers and the concept is that people are suggesting that we wait for the comprehensive plan to be done. How is this different? I mean, can you just educate me on that regard?
I don't think it is. I mean, I really think that's the board's discretion on how and when they want to adopt it. I mean, it's really up to the board whether they feel like there's enough information to adopt it now or they would want a consultant to look at it.
And Jeff, is how does that fare as far as having a comprehensive plan and then trying to change code on something that doesn't exist?
This code, the one that you have before you, we try to limit it so it's a very, very restrictive code, and it only limits it to a very specific area within the town. And as crafted, would have, as projected, would have minimal impact on the surrounding community. So this is not a town-wide issue, it's not really a Calverton issue per se.
Okay.
So that it, the question is whether it should be vetted through a comprehensive plan. If we limit it to a very, very small area for a single use, I don't think it really needs to be vetted for 18 months before
Okay.
it proceeds.
So I'm comfortable with it, whatever the distance from here to Montauk is.
Okay.
I mean, and then, I don't see, that's where I'm,
We could easily find that.
Is that where we're up to, Jeff, 18 months now?
I'm sorry?
Is that what we're up to now, 18 months?
no.
For,
The comprehensive plan.
You said 18,
You
it's
just said
14.
something's gonna be better for 18 months.
well, that's going to be part of the next presentation, but if you want me to jump the gun, so to speak,
Yeah, we'll introduce that topic,
Yeah,
we'll
well,
close
yeah,
this
we
topic,
had that
if you don't mind.
conversation.
That's fine, yeah.
I didn't want to meld them, I just
No,
know
but
that somehow,
they're
there's gonna be
related.
questions, so
Yeah.
let's
they
address
are
this out.
related. So if you want to know it now, I
Yeah.
can talk about it now, or I can wait until the next
Okay, so,
discussion item.
is everyone done with this
No,
topic?
I'm not.
Okay, so,
I've spoken out in the past about requesting a moratorium on battery storage and anaerobic digesters, and my main concern was because of the locations of these, and I think the locations of these facilities need to be addressed in the comp plan. However, the PIP, to me, is the perfect place for an anaerobic digester. It's an industrial park, and that's where it belongs. I don't envision any other anaerobic digesters coming, knocking on our doors saying we want to build 3 of them, 4 of them. There's just not the supply for the food waste out here needed to do a ton of anaerobic digesters. So in researching this and talking to planning, I am very comfortable with it as is for the PIP only. Battery storage, that's kind of a different discussion, because again, after talking to planning and looking at our options, we have no code for battery storage right now at all. So to put a moratorium on something we don't even have, kind of, after looking into this, kind of doesn't make as much sense to me as working with our code to eventually put something in if that's what we're going to do. But again, that I would like to see addressed through the comp plan, and I think that will be handled through the comp plan as we develop code for the battery storage facilities. And then I'll end it with that, because the next one kind of crosses over, and we'll discuss that.
Okay, any other questions from the board?
So I'll bring it back to code revision, we'll work on the radius issue and clean it up, and when it's ready, we'll come back before you.
When you do radius, right, make sure you exclude Connecticut, because Connecticut would fall in that radius.
Now they're gonna boat it over.
We don't want to put it over.
Okay. All right, thank you, Matt, and moving on to our next discussion, which has been the subject and consideration and a lot of talk among many members of the community, which is matters surrounding possible moratorium on industrial development in Calverton. Councilman Hubbard, you requested this item to be added to the agenda, so I'm going to let you introduce the topic. Along with our planning administrator, Jeff Murphy, and we also have our town attorney present, Eric Howard.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
We
How are you?
find ourselves in 2022 looking at issues that were decided in 2003. And in 2003, with the comp plan, obviously, nobody has a crystal ball that could see what was going to happen 19 years later. Times have certainly changed. Technology has overwhelmingly changed. And back in '03, when all that land up in the Calverton area was slated for industrial ABC, I don't think anybody envisioned that we'd sitting here today talking about anaerobic digesters, battery storage facilities, even solar farms to some extent, and certainly not logistical warehouses where truck traffic is going to be phenomenal, coming and going 24/7. So I've worked with Matt and Jeff on this, and I completely favor a moratorium on this particular subject dealing with warehouses. The industrial area in Calverton seems to be a hot spot for people wanting to come and build warehouses of different sizes, heights, different types of facilities, and it's almost like the floodgates opened up and we got inundated with not applications, some applications, but conversations about wanting to build on land that is zoned right now to accommodate those structures. This, I strongly feel, needs to go into a moratorium, and I think we need to have the comp plan look at this and comp plan help deal with this. As we know, there's many people knocking at the door looking to do this. There's so many articles out on this from overbuilding of warehouses, that there's so many are being built that these may eventually, by the time we get to them, if they're built, they may not be functional. There may not be a use for them. So we want to make sure I want to make sure we get this right with a moratorium, and I'm asking for an 18-month moratorium, simply because the comp plan, we're hoping by next Friday we should have something in order to be signed and contracted with BFJ to get the comp plan started. But we know it's going to take 12 to 14 months or so for the comp plan to be completed. That's why I'm recommending an 18-month moratorium on this, so we can address it properly. The infrastructure for some of these structures is not there. The town roads are not equipped to handle the amount of truck traffic that some of these are going to demand. The fumes, the pollution, there's so many different things that have to be looked at, and some of these locations just are not ideal, in my mind. Too close to residential areas. One structure is poised to be, I don't know, 50 or 60 feet high. It's going to be seen for miles around. I'm not sure that's something we want to dot our beautiful town with. So this needs to be, in my mind, needs to be addressed by the comp plan, and that's what I'm asking for.
So, I just have a question for the town attorney. Eric?
Yes.
Now, we have apparently 3 projects that have been accepted by the building department. And how does the moratorium affect these projects? Because we did accept these projects, from what I understand. I believe one of them is in full review. There were also impact statements that should be done. Should possibly these projects be grandfathered in, or any project that it's well advanced, that we ask for it to be advanced and do all kinds of studies? How does that work?
Okay, so my understanding is that none of those projects have received final site plan approval, and there have been no building permits issued. So a strict application of the law that I've researched on this requires substantial expenditure and substantial construction. So in my analysis, not knowing all the details of each project, I don't believe any of them would qualify under those standards. Therefore, any exclusion of those pending projects would be up to the town board for determination. And I think that in making that determination, you would want to consider the length of time that the application's been pending, the appearance before the planning board, investment in plans, impact statements, application fees.
Secrets?
Correct.
So, Jeff, can we get a breakdown as far as how far along these projects are?
Yes, and that's one reason why I have Greg Bergman here, just to go over briefly the list of applications
Perfect.
before you, and then Greg can weigh in on where each of them actually are in the review process.
Okay.
As Eric pointed out, none of them are vested pursuant to New York State law. However, some of these projects have been around for a considerable period of time. Just a list of the projects, and then Greg can go over where each of them are in the application review process. All of these are with the planning board right now.
Okay.
HK Ventures, that's for 412,000 square feet. Riverhead Logistics Center is proposing 640,000 square foot single building. Calverton Industrial Subdivision, also known as Homestead, that's the property directly adjacent to Splish Splash. That's on 130 acre site that's coming for a subdivision. So that's more than double the size of the property of Logistics Center. We also have other applications for U-Haul of Calverton on the corner of Manor Road and 25. That's for 152,000 square feet of development. JPD Calverton is proposing approximately 75,000 square foot expansion to their existing development on 25. And we have Calverton Pods, which is proposing an additional 45,000 square foot building on their property. And they're next to their charter school.
Just one quick comment before you go. The town board doesn't see these particular projects or applications. They go to the planning department and then to the planning board. And with that, I'd like to thank the planning board for their consideration of the issue in their last meeting. I was not in attendance, but I did read about it. And I think Chairwoman Waski, who I've been friends with for a long time, and I think is a very bright person, and Ed Denzeski, and the whole board did a really good job of saying, this is getting way too big. They see the projects, you see the projects. They don't come to us first. So when we get a phone call and say, what's going on, sometimes we really don't know
the extent. So I think it was really great that the planning board brought this to everybody's attention so that we could deliberate something like this. 100% agreement. I think that was great what they did. They realize all the things coming at us in a very quick pace. So I appreciate the planning board with their foresight, looking at it and saying, okay, hold up, let's put the brakes on here. I agree 100% with that.
Okay,
Greg?
Greg, you want to just?
So to the specific to some of the applications, they did mention 6 applications, 3 of which I'm reviewing. So the HK Ventures application is, like Jeff said, it's an application to propose to develop about 412,000 square feet. It's directly to the east of the Tractor Supply site on 25. That application came in February of 2020. It went through the SECR process. We issued the planning board issued a positive declaration. We went through scoping, hearings on a draft environmental impact statement. The planning board did accept a final environmental impact statement. They have recently, at the last planning board meeting, required a supplemental to just capture some of the additional traffic impacts. Of the projects that we've received, that is by far the farthest along. OSTAD, the Calverton Industrial Subdivision, directly to the west of Splish Splash. Again, that's a subdivision, so there's no concrete development plans yet. But they're based on the parcel size. You could be looking at about 1.8 million square feet of development if that site is ever developed. That application was submitted in October of 2021. It was issued a POS deck in early 2022. We went through scoping. The planning board adopted a final scope in June of this year. They have not submitted a draft environmental impact statement yet. And Riverhead Logistics Center was submitted in April of 2022. Planning board issued a positive declaration. Scoping was held in early September. Final scope was adopted at the first meeting in October. And again, that project has not submitted a draft environmental impact statement. So those last two, the OSTAD subdivision, Riverhead Logistics Center, we haven't even had a chance to review any document or analyze potential impacts on those projects yet. Whereas HK Ventures, I would say, is substantially far along in the SECR process. Again, not saying they haven't gotten preliminary or final approvals yet, but we do have a pretty good grasp on the HK Ventures project.
So, Greg, I have a question on the Calverton pods, which already exists, right? When did they submit?
I don't have the date on the Calverton Pods application. I mean, I will just say, the Calverton Pods warehouse is a pretty, in terms of
It's
the industrial
pre-existing.
development, well, it's not pretty, I mean, they do have a 45,000 square foot warehouse. I mean, in terms of impacts, I mean, that's a pretty benign use. I mean, there's not a tremendous amount of traffic going out of there. I mean, we've reviewed that. I mean, they have, maybe a dozen or 2 dozen trucks a day. I mean, that's not a project that's at the level of, the potential of hundreds of trips a day. So the pods is a pretty sleepy use. The other ones, U-Haul of Calverton and JPD, again, they're smaller scale development, but those 2 applications are not deemed complete yet. They've got to provide additional information, additional sets of plans.
So is there a way to for us to get a spreadsheet? Because Jeff mentioned the cost also. I'd like to see what we have the time that they've applied. I'd like to see what the cost is and get some idea, even if you rate it from 1 to 10, where they are in the process. I think that would be fair.
The other part to consider with that are not just the applications that you see on this list that have been officially submitted. Our office has been received a number of informal requests and inquiries about development elsewhere for industrial development in the Calverton zip code area. There is a large area of industrial C zoning along River Road. And if you know River Road, just west of Edwards Avenue, that's not designed for heavy truck traffic any way, shape, or form. And it's a more rural area than you do see upwards in Edwards Avenue and 25. So it's a totally different environment that really needs careful evaluation as to what type of uses and how much development should go in that area.
And can you also provide, specific areas that, because I'll tell you where I am with this, and I don't, if there is an operation that will cost to go in that has no effect on traffic, no effect on the residents, okay, I think we need to look at it and there should be a process where these people can file for an exemption.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example, and this may not be the greatest one since we have a solar moratorium. I mean, I'm against ground solar altogether. I think it should all be agrivoltaics. But if somebody comes in with an agrivoltaic project on 100 acres off a river road, there's no impacts whatsoever, number one. Number two, it's tax revenue to the town. We have to be very, very careful on what we do with moratoriums and what that means. And we probably need Rothar's office to look into this. What it's going to mean to the taxpayers, because we have a moratorium for 18 months. That means if most projects take 2 years to even get started. That means in 18 months, they're going to start. So what is that? That's over 3.5 years of no tax revenue, potential tax revenue. So I believe we need to look at project by project.
And that's not atypical, Bob. I've seen moratoriums where they include an
Okay.
exemption process,
Good.
where they would submit an official request to this board and say, we could outline performance standards that they would have to demonstrate to the board to say, this is why I should be exempted,
Yeah, because this is people's jobs, this is tax revenue, and this is economic development to the town. And I'm not saying, well, I don't want to see the Empire State Building, that would be fun, it'd be a big attraction, but,
I would just add to what he's saying about the ratables and the taxes. There are some projects that have already negotiated some major upgrades to the Riverhead Water District, that the district is reliant on millions of dollars of interest and input into their fundamental growth.
I
So-
think HK Ventures was going to enhance our water district by $2.5 million.
Yeah, that's just a consideration that I'm throwing out
Yeah,
there.
and their application was in February 2020. They had the scoping hearings, they accepted the final impact statement, they're completing SECRA. I have a little bit of concerns. I know there's a huge amount of projects coming. It's gotta stop. Whatever's in the pipeline, we have to stop that. So I agree with that. However, I don't want to go into litigation. The town, is going to cost the town quite a bit of money. If certain projects are well advanced, you don't have to have a permit. Because you might be, you guys issued a permit, maybe you're holding off on it, right? So, I'm a little concerned with the 3 projects that have filed and we have had, they're before the board. I know that we grandfathered in when we completed the first moratorium on solar. Those projects went through and we stopped everything. So yes, we need to have some type of control. However, I think we should look quite closely at HK Ventures, the logistics center at Olsted, put everything behind us and see where we are with them in more detail.
Eric, if we were to implement an exemption process to this, and there should be litigation down the road, does having an exemption process help somebody litigate? Would it
Well,
make it easier to litigate, I guess would be the question?
yeah, I mean, so.
Because you picked them, but you
So you
didn't
have-
pick me, and can we get into that situation
Yeah,
where it would?
You do create some gray area there where you allow an exemption process, and if you have a history of exemptions, you give footing to someone who got denied to say, well, why did you give it to them, and try to draw those comparisons and say, no, mine's less impactful because of X, Y, and Z. And then if you permit that, you're sort of taking away the control that we have and allowing a judge to make that decision for us, right?
Right.
So, I would be cautious of implementing something like that, especially because we're talking about 18 months. And the pendency of a comp plan is a valid public purpose for a moratorium. And again, right now, in my analysis, none of these projects are vested. The HK Ventures agreement on water is, I believe, close to being finalized, but it's not entirely finalized. So but that is one thing that, I would urge you to consider in determining what, if anything, you want to exempt from this. But to Councilman Hubbard's question, an exemption process, I think, makes things cloudy and complicates things where we don't need complication.
So to that point, Eric, how would you remove the clouds, right? So an example would be this, okay? Forget the exemption process, but if a project in this zone has no bearing on traffic, no bearing on residential, does that remove the cloud? And I'm gonna Matt, you had said that there are, when you do these moratoriums, there are exemptions, and I'd like to see
I can see,
a
from other
process.
towns, I can show you, samples
Okay,
that.
so
There has to be very specific
Specific
criteria.
criteria.
that's
that
where
we
I'm
have to
going
do,
with
yeah.
removing the cloud.
So the question comes back to, who's making that determination that there's no impact on traffic or residential?
Well,
And then what significant in of itself is a subjective term, so there has to be really defined criteria.
To even get to the exemption
Right.
process. Yeah.
I'm going to use example again of a solar farm, which does nothing, right? So that's my example. I just want to be protected, I want to protect the town and the taxpayers. If there's something we're not even thinking about, that can go in. Now, I'll give you another example. I know we don't have battery storage code yet, but if it's battery storage, now they're going to be, an 18-month moratorium, and, when they don't do anything, except sit there. There's no trap, there's no trucks, there's nothing. Electricity going in and out, it's in nobody's way.
So,
My concern, Bob, for that is just location.
Right.
Same as it was for the anaerobic digester. I don't want these popping up next to a residential facility or a residential area.
That's,
I think our
Even
code-
though-
I
our
agree
code
with you,
written
but that's my
addresses that,
point,
though.
Tim. I said from the outset, it doesn't affect traffic or residents. I
Right.
totally agree with you. I'm just wondering how we get there, because, and I can't, legally, there's gotta be a way, because no matter what you do legally, there's always a lawsuit somewhere.
Well, so right now, we don't have anything for battery storage.
I
and-
understand.
And if we impose a moratorium on industrial A, B, and C, and then we adopt battery storage, allowing those uses in A, B, and C, the moratorium still captures that.
I don't think I'm making my point. I'm saying, I'd like to see somebody have the ability to file for an exemption, and you're saying no. What I'm saying is, can you put language in here that if it doesn't affect the residents, right, no effect on residents, no effect on traffic?
I
think it's too opinionated.
That it doesn't have an effect on residents.
And I mean,
'Cause
we're
if
not-
you have one resident come in and say, hey, this affects me, is that enough to deny it? So I just.
I'll use
I think-
River Road as an,
I think
I
we
mean,
have
And we're not
Okay.
seeing applications that don't have impacts, we're not seeing, we're seeing applications for 400,000 square feet, 600, we're seeing
that I
applications
get.
that are having.
We're talking, I'm not talking about warehouses.
If someone wanted to add if Tractor Supply wanted to build a 2,000 square foot, outdoor storage
Campsite.
area, it's like, I could see that, that's not.
They could
gonna have
apply for the
significant
exemption.
impact. Those are not the applications that we're seeing in California.
I'm not specifically using solar as an example, because I don't know what else is coming down the pike to the point that was made earlier about the 2003 comp plan and where we are now. It's like the school boundaries, right? They were done in the 50s. Do they work now? Absolutely not. What are we doing about it?
I think that there are projects, as HK Ventures already in their secret progress. We have been working with them for the last year and a half, at least since I came aboard, talking about water infrastructure, and they've become a great savior in terms of our water district towards helping out with the storage tank on their facility. And so a moratorium jeopardizes all that. I also have to see that how much money have they, as a company such as that, as one example, invested already into this progress for now you guys to decide that, we're going to decide to pull the plug on something that's already this far in. I don't think it's proper. I think it's necessary for the water district. I think HK Ventures is too far down the line, just as one of them. I'm not familiar with all the list of these other projects and how far they've gone. But I also think that we're sitting here and we are facing piercing the tax cap for next year's budget, yet at the same time, we want to hold off on certain development where it's going to bring in tax revenue. And so I have concerns about how that affects the overall plan here I think what we've done so far and the draft agreements that we've came with HK Ventures towards our water district is essential to the survival of the water district. And I see the water superintendent is back here, and I'd be curious for Frank to say, has this affect, has the moratorium affect that?
That application is has been advanced. And we can say, well, it's not, it's just do a moratorium. There will be litigation. There will be litigation on that one. And you know what, rightfully so. We don't string people along. It's been before the planning board, it's been presented. We don't string people along, accept the exorbitant fees, and then go, well, you know, everybody's complaining, so now let's just go and we're gonna cut everybody off, and let's do a moratorium, and we're gonna fall back on the comprehensive plan. If there weren't any projects, or maybe projects were initial projects, they were just filed, and so, Jeff, you got 3 projects, and we're doing a comprehensive, maybe a moratorium would have been a clean moratorium, but there is no doubt in my mind that this will go into litigation, and I think we have to look at this comprehensively. We have to look at every project individually, and I think as a board, we'll hopefully make the right decision.
I think if we, I don't disagree with what you said, and I don't disagree that that particular project of HK Ventures is really much further along than any other project any of the 6 we talked about. And that may be an exception we may have to go with. I do want to hear from the water department regarding the upgrades that are being done and how necessary they are in order to help out
Great.
other plans and the water district in the Calverton area. That might be a deciding factor that might make me support leaving HK out of the moratorium, and then look at the other cases, case by case, or the other cases really aren't that far into the system as far as I'm concerned. Even though we know HK is not vested, let's be clear about that, they are not vested. So they can litigate all they want, but we have the law on our side. So we have to look at that also. This is a double-edged sword, there's no doubt about it. If that land remains vacant and we don't allow anything on it, we lose tax base, and that's important also. So we have to tread carefully here, but I think because of the rush of so many projects coming at us at one point in time, that to put an 18-month moratorium on the majority of those projects, or all of those projects, however we deem fit, I think 18 months is not a lot to ask for the comp plan to address all this properly. We're paying a lot of money for this comp plan, and I prefer to let it do its job and help us in deciding what's right for industrial A, B, and C, especially and particularly in the Calverton area. So
Okay, and
I'm not against removing a project out, but I think we have to look at stuff like that very carefully. But I do support an overall moratorium for 18 months to deal with this.
All right, and thank you for being open-minded on that. Can we have Frank come up here?
I'd like to get Dawn also after Frank talk about economic development.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I'm Frank, the Water District Superintendent. So what do you want me to talk to specifically, how the development relates to the tank infrastructure and things like that?
Yes.
Yes.
So one thing I want to clarify is we cannot ask a developer to dig us out of other capacity issues we have right now. So the money we ask for solely benefits that project is based on their individual needs. That tank, but the investment is part of, the development investment is part of the overall investment we're going to make as a town. We're also utilizing American Rescue Funds and probably going to bond some of that. What we pay for will benefit our water district and our existing customers. What they pay for supports theirs. We're right now with Anne Marie and Bill developing a mechanism to say for the remaining cost of the tank is something we can essentially sell to a new development. That we may hold the bond for a while, but we need a mechanism to take that money and pay for the capacity that they're going to need to support their project. And the ground storage tank we're gonna build is the cheapest, quickest way to resolve that right now. We're also gonna have to develop well sites, but they're just more complex to pull off. This is the quickest, cheapest thing we can do right now.
How far along in the negotiations are you with them?
We're at there's two things. The payment schedule is currently being negotiated, and bond counsel and exactly how we manage the money coming in and spend it. Those are two really complicated issues that we've been working on for about a year. And once we resolve this, we're going to be able to use this, whatever mechanism we develop, over and over again. There's all those other developments, their commitment so far has been the payment of a map and plan.
It's fair to say that this is the first, and this would be a template that you could
Yeah.
use moving forward.
That's exactly accurate. HK Ventures is the furthest along in negotiations, but I think whether it's North Point or another one very similar is just right behind them. So,
Okay. Thank you.
okay, is that it?
I appreciate you coming up.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Frank.
I have a question, Jeff. Approximately, and you don't have to be exact, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but put your minds together with Matt. How much do you think that HK Venture put into this project? From the application fees
Yeah,
to the secret?
I couldn't even begin to
Well,
estimate.
how much is the secret for this
How
project?
much it costs to do an environmental impact statement and all the review and the map?
250,000?
Way above that.
Way above that.
Yeah, but they would have to do it anyway.
Right, so 500,000 just to do a secret and the application fees, so have they invested $1 million possibly? And they were the first ones that submitted the application. Everybody followed. So I don't know if we can just,
Just to be clear, I think, they could make that investment and the application could still fail.
Correct.
Right.
So-
Yep,
so
there could be a negative finding
so-
phase.
Right.
Not saying that there is one,
Right.
but there could be and they could fail.
But you're also gonna provide us with a spreadsheet,
Yes,
which is
that-
gonna
that's-
have
we have
those
that.
numbers on each
We'll have
project.
that for you.
So I have two questions. Why would you include the pods if it's benign? I mean, they already exist. It's 45,000 square feet, which is approximately an acre. Why would you include that in the moratorium if it's benign?
It was just a list of pending
It's a
projects.
list of
Okay,
six
thank
pending
you,
Not
okay,
all, yeah,
gotcha,
I mean,
okay. So to Ken's point about the taxes, I mean, this is something that, it's great to be, and I get concerned about this blanket, because we are piercing the cap, a lot of it's due to the recession. Look what the costs of the town. What are we gonna do next year when we have this moratorium and there's some that's why I asked for exceptions, and Eric, however you need to get that in to get that cloud of exceptions out, right? But make it so, something like a solar farm could come in, agrivoltaics could come in, a battery storage where it doesn't affect the residents, that's tax revenue to the town. And I have be careful what we ask for. We don't want anything, okay? Be careful what we're asking for, just as let's be careful what we build. And I agree with Tim. I read the study on warehousing, and there's expected to be, at the rate of development, there's expected to be a glut. And I understand that.
What I would say is it's a moratorium, it's a pause. It's not a no.
It's a pause to you, it's not your money.
Correct.
Okay?
That's fair,
And
but we've identified an issue. I don't wanna argue with you
In fairness,
about it, yeah.
look, somebody comes in, they're not gonna wait 18 months for Riverhead to get their act together. They're going
and
somewhere else.
another year to adopt it.
And then they're 2 years down the road
To
to put
adopt
it in the ground. I've seen this with the town, I've seen this with the town square where people came in, okay, willing to invest, and then the pattern book happened. Every single one of those people that were willing to invest went outside of the town to put their money somewhere else. We can't, we gotta be really careful. It's a delicate balance to what we're doing.
I don't know of anybody that went outside the town that
There's
was
still a lot of
investing in
pending
the town
applications.
square.
No, I'm talking about 4 or 5 years ago. I know of 2.
That's also somewhat predicated on the assumption that, they won't come back after 18 months or someone
Right.
else with a different project.
There's
All right,
there's a
anyway.
clear different message being sent when something doesn't meet secret, or for any reason a project is denied and doesn't receive its building permits, than us saying, we're gonna pull a moratorium and we're putting a stop to it. It's two very different.
And to Ken's point,
Tests.
and you brought this up with me, Aaron, when they do SECR, okay, if River Road can't handle trucks, they can't do the project, correct?
No, they would have to build up the roads to mitigate it, and then they could,
Okay, so
they
they'd
could
have to-
widen River Road to accommodate that traffic.
Okay. And do you think?
I'm yet to see a traffic study, though, that says no good. I've never seen one that came back
my
and said.
40 years, I've
"Oh,
never
no,
seen that."
it's- No, it's all good, it all works, it all works. And on a small scale, look at BJ's gas station.
Terrible,
Look at the intersection of Cromer Avenue and 58. They're awful. These were traffic studies were done.
No.
I'm not putting my eggs in
Okay.
a basket on the
I'm
traffic
just
study.
asking the question.
Yeah, and then the other question regarding River Road, is that appropriate area, when you take a look at the community character of that area for large-scale development, industrial development?
I think people are panicking right now because you're seeing all these projects, and everybody thinks that they're gonna go through the planning board, they're gonna bombard you with work and extending, and I understand people's concern right now, but we just have to be very, very careful with the projects that, we have accepted and how far they are along. So if you can provide, Jeff, provide us with that information.
Yes. Yep.
And the board has to collectively make a decision on it.
One other thing I would note is the way that this is drafted is to capture industrial A, B, and C in its entirety, right? Now, when you look at each of those zoning use districts, there's permitted uses in each one, right? So if you have concerns about particular uses, we can identify those uses, right? So in one of those, you can have agricultural. I don't think we're trying to stop applications for agricultural production here. So what I would say is, as a board, individually or collectively, look at the permitted uses in A, B, and C, and then let's, if this is something that you want to move forward with, let's identify those things that we're, specifically trying to put a moratorium or pause on while we finish the
Great
comp plan.
idea. Can we get a spreadsheet on that as well?
We
A, B,
definitely-
and C, what's prohibited, what's
Yeah, well, that's in the
permitted?
code. Yeah.
I know,
We
but
don't
I
want to
mean,
oversaturate, right? And we all agree on that.
I mean,
think
with the industrial, one of the things about our code, industrial C lists, probably 9 or 10 permitted uses. Industrial A says all industrial uses are permitted with the exception of the following, which are prohibited. And it goes to list, probably 24, noxious industries.
Sauerkraut.
Yeah, sauerkraut manufacturing, glue manufacturing. But I mean, the industrial A zoning district is extremely vague. It's just all industrial uses. So where a question of, traditional warehousing versus, these new logistics centers or last mile facilities, that there are other towns throughout the country who have kind of addressed this.
Industrial A zoning code, for example, Bob, also, we allow solar farms. I know you say you're against solar farm, but you're in favor of solar agrivoltaics. That's not in the code.
Yeah,
So right now,
Relatively new.
well, it's.
Bob's taking care of it, don't worry about it.
Let's
I
get
mean,
that, you get dual use out of the land, I'll talk to you about that. because
no,
that's-
And
Bob, we agree with you,
Yeah.
but the code doesn't allow it.
All right, well, let's change.
And I feel like there's a sense with I feel like with moratoriums, like, I don't think you're gonna see the industrial zones rezoned to open space, but it's about, well thought out managed growth. I mean, for example, the fact that just by the allowable building lot coverages within the industrial A and industrial C, it's like double what the allowable sanitary density is by the Suffolk County Article 6 code. So I mean, that right there is an inconsistency. It's like, if you're gonna build out to the maximum build out, you're gonna need a sewage treatment plant. The fact that most of Calverton is not located within sewer districts or Riverhead Water District. So I mean, these projects, Osted, Calverton subdivision, needs a water district extension. I mean, 1.8 million square feet of industrial, you could be looking at 100,000 gallons a day, 150,000 gallons based on, what we saw for Riverhead Logistics Center. So I mean, it's about getting the ducks in a row to support this infrastructure, like, capital plan to extend water. How are we getting water to Calverton when most of it is not within a water district? Those are the things you look at. I don't think the intent of the moratorium is to, we're gonna zone it farmland, we're gonna rezone APZ, but it's about having, managed reasonable growth and ways to support that.
So why would
But any
we,
new project would have to pay for those, would have to pay for those extensions and bring it in, which
Well,
ultimately
not-
could benefit the water
yeah.
district.
Well, but it's not just paying for the extension. I mean, you need DEC, if you're gonna extend the water district, there's DEC approvals, which we know how that gets into with, we've seen it with EPCAL. So, it's not just one piece, but yeah, I mean, It's what's the capital plan, and how's the plan to,
Correct, and if you take a look at these larger projects that are on state highways, they're not even in their capital plans for the next 20 years to improve those roads, and yet we're approving development that's going to oversaturate those roads. So we want the growth to be commensurate with the infrastructure to service it.
Can we, go ahead.
I'm sorry, just the comp plan gives us a plan. It gives us how to manage this going forward, rather than dealing with it on sort of an ad hoc application to application basis like what's happening now. So I think that's why the moratorium just helps us
It's
get
not
that
ad
plan
hoc,
in
because you
place.
had one project that was well in advance, and then after that, I guess people got word, and a bunch of applications are following. You guys can decide, you know, and the planning board, you know, these applications are reviewed thoroughly by the planning board. And so we don't have to accept every application, and we can create a moratorium for all those that are coming in. I don't think that the planning board is dealing with all these applications, correct? Every single one that's come in?
when an applicant makes a complete, we don't, the planning department, the planning board, if someone makes a complete application, we don't have any discretion to just say, we're not gonna review it. You know, it's like, someone makes a complete application, we review it, start secret, there's timelines. We can, you know, the code says, you know, you'll review a complete application. We can't just say, well, we're not gonna review that one.
And then
Someone can
And
submit
there are
that.
state mandated deadlines that we have to follow.
And it's different if there is no code for something like battery
Right,
storage.
so that's actually the point I was about to make, is right now, the planning department and the planning board has to work with the code that we have. So the comp plan is going to have proposals to amend our code to implement the plan that they come up with. So that's, you know, something that I feel like is important, or I would.
So I think if we
that's-
pass
that's
the
an opinion, but-
battery-powered, you know, energy's code, then we've got an outline to follow. And I think it also, the code that we've proposed, that we've written and done in code revision, protects a lot of the residents in the areas as well, too.
So, Eric, as a real estate agent, okay, licensed in New York State, very familiar with people's property rights, right, and ownership of land. So somebody who owns a piece of land, in, you know, Calverton, and decides, you know, it fits the code, I think this is what I want to do with this land, I own it. And we also know that the courts are very, very liberal with property right ownership. When most of the Article 78s, a lot of times, the town will lose them, especially if somebody owned the land, tries to develop something that is at a zone use. How does this work with this moratorium?
So if someone is vested, then likely we would lose. If they are not vested, which means no substantial expenditure, no substantial construction, feel comfortable that we would be in good shape in any potential Article 78 or other litigation. And again, a land use moratorium with the pendency of a comprehensive plan is considered by New York courts to be a valid public purpose for the moratorium, right?
Well, and there was also something, I mean, I will note that both HK Ventures and Riverhead Logistics Center do not comply with the code. They both need variances for building height and impervious coverage. So it's not like we're even seeing applications that are, you know, it meets the code, complies with everything, does not need any variance, it's an as-of-right development. Both applications require relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals. So it's not even like the case could be made where it's an as-of-right development.
Well, most applications ask for variances, correct?
That's not accurate. I mean, no. I mean, when Calverton Pods came in, you know, well, no, actually, Calverton Pods, it's not,
I
I mean,
think most do.
Which, if every applicant, I'll say this, is asking for a variance for a specific thing, is the code functioning correctly?
there is an increased
Well, we
industrial
do have
demand
some
for
archaic
height.
codes.
Well, this could give us an opportunity to
Yes,
get this right.
I know that personally
Correct.
from a piece of property that I had.
And as you
Yeah.
know, I put forward a code amendment on the TDRs for the building heights industrial, and I was criticized because we were going to need to do a GEIS, and that should be evaluated through the comp plan update. Well, if these projects are going to continue on without a moratorium, they can seek the variance relief, and we'll get no TDR benefit out of them in any way, shape, or form. So, which is it?
That's my point. That's why we're paying this money for the comp plan, let it do its job.
Question, Craig, you brought up, Craig, so, you brought up an interesting point about.
He's been told everything.
I
Yeah,
get there
it's- yeah.
sometimes when you laugh at me.
So, on industrial C, you brought up a good point, and this is probably other parts of the code, but you said that, what did you say about density build-out and the health
Floor area
department?
versus
So basically, the bulk of Calverton is located in Suffolk County Groundwater Management Zone 3, which the allowable sanitary density is 300 gallons per day per acre. So general industrial build-out, the sanitary density is .04 gallons per day per square foot. So if you just, we
7,500.
yeah, so we did it just based on the allowable sanitary density as of right in Suffolk County Groundwater Management Zone 3, you could build 7,500 square feet of floor area per acre
Per acre.
to comply with the Article 6.
Right.
Our zoning code allows a 40% lot coverage.
Okay, can we stop there for a second? Why are we waiting for the comp plan to change that? We need to change that now, right?
Well, I mean, and these are some of the things, it's like, the 2003 comp plan, it's a great document, it was well thought out in a lot of respects, but there were some inconsistencies. And I mean, for example, Edwards Avenue, one of the recommendations in the 2003 comp plan was that Edwards Avenue needs to be widened from, Long Island Expressway up to 25. I don't know where where we are in terms of capital plan, when's the threshold that would need to be widened. There's still a decent amount of vacant land on Edwards Avenue that could be developed. So, I mean, these are questions, and again,
All right, but can we go back to the density build-out and the amount of gallons per day? Our code doesn't work, right? So we don't need the comp plan people to tell us that. Let's follow what Suffolk County has, right? It's 7,500 square feet per 300 gallons per day on an acre, right? Let's get our code consistent with that. We don't need we don't need to pay them to do the research that we were,
it would have, if you were consistent with the health department standards, your lot coverage would be closer to like 16 or 17%. So ineffective, and if the board wanted to do that,
Cut it out.
you'd cut the development potential.
Yeah, but we don't have, but that would happen anyway. If we told somebody, you know what I'm saying? Why don't we just get there?
Can we agree to get information
Yes.
from you guys with
Concerning
spreadsheets on the
specific
different
applications.
projects, how far along they are, how close they are, how,
That's easy to
even money invested into it?
do. We'll have our fees.
Yeah, I know, you're not gonna be able to do that. But get us the information so we can look at it and have a further discussion as soon as we can
Yeah.
on this, and continue it that way.
Right. Good,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, everyone. This concludes our discussion items for today. Devin, can you please read the resolution for today?
Good morning, Deb.
Good morning. I think so.
Resolution number 1 authorizes amendment number 1 to the 2023 preliminary budget. Resolution number 2 authorizes amendment number 2 to the 2023 preliminary budget.
We have to have a discussion on this one.
Okay.
Myself and fellow town board members had discussed, Bill Rothar can come forward. So Bill, the goal was to allocate $7,500 to the general fund and town board coordinator budget. So I believe I have the support from my fellow council members, and so we need to adjust the numbers in this budget to accommodate that. So clearly you have $2,800, so we need another $4,700, but what we won't be able to calculate is what's already in the preliminary budget of next year, whether it's the 5 or 6%.
So-
that's in there.
Okay, I just want to make one statement. I went through an extensive review of our budget over the course of almost 3 months. I met with the board prior, once I started the review. I met with the board at the conclusion, and nothing was raised. I submitted my budget soon thereafter, a few days later. There were salary increases The average salary increase in town for merit is 3.5%. Come January, the budget, there'll be a CSEA negotiation where everybody's expected to receive possibly another 1.25. In addition, I also raised every employee salary here in the town of Riverhead by 5%, except the town board declined to take a raise, but even the public officials who had never received a raise were also inclusive in that. To propose something and be blindsided here when a resolution comes up with 7,500 in addition to the 5% that a person's gonna get in salary, the 1.25, and then another 75%, which will probably total something like 16% increase, one of the highest in the entire town, without me being aware. This is Riverhead and the taxpayers' salary and their budget. It's not Tammany Hall. And this should have been discussed with me. They should have been, and the administrator evaluations are required. I have not received that. A couple of days ago, I heard that they wanted to make an adjustment. I said, okay, maybe we'll keep it between the 3.5. And now I come before the town board. This is not the way that this town should manage their budget.
We didn't get the budget until you submitted it to us, so there was no way to do any of these comparisons. So until the budget was
Everybody
actually
made
received to us.
recommendations. I met with you, and if you wanted to give a certain individual a
We needed to
raise.
see your budget to review what you did. You put
No, 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 no.
$20,000 alone in your staff, in your office.
No, I did
With
not.
one person receiving a $10,000 raise. So don't say
No.
it's not fair that other
Do not
people,
go
you can
back.
take care of your
What-
own, but not others.
That, it's not
That is,
correct.
Bill, is that accurate?
No,
Is there over $20,000 into the supervisor's staff?
Give me one moment. In total for 3 people, it's just under 20.
okay, and we also have to note that one person has not received a raise in 3 years. We also have to note that my budget of last year, the people that were hired under, so now I'm catching them up to my budget. Let me deal with my budget, and you should have a discussion with me. However, the individual received 2 raises last year and an additional time the year before. It's somewhere the bleeding has gotta stop, and again, it's not Tammany Hall.
I favor 7,500 for our coordinator. I think she works hard, and I think she needs to come up to speed. And if she should decide to retire, nobody's gonna take that job based on her salary right now. Nobody of good quality.
Thank you, Frank.
And it should have been done appropriately and not blindside the supervisor behind the scenes. I spoke to everyone as far as what we needed to get done, every department. And again, I haven't seen it into, so you're talking about 2 raises last year, an additional, before that, additional time, and now just blindside the supervisor with a budget.
Who blindsided you? You walked around and you consulted with everybody. This is what we've been doing for the
No, but
past
you,
month
but
here.
you have not consulted with me on that particular, no one has. And so that's not the way a budget should be submitted, okay?
I definitely
said-
consulted with you
Please.
on this, so don't
Yes,
say
just 2
that.
days ago, 2 days
Okay,
ago,
so that's
saying
not
that the
blindside.
board wants to, because you
And
were
it's a
leading the
work
charge.
session. That's
with
what
Bothwell.
this is for.
Okay, it's politically
That's what
motivated.
these-
In either case, we're gonna move up.
It's-
I am gonna put up the
So could I-
resolution, and we'll let it go to
I just want to make
vote.
sure that I'm clear, so from her salary today, we're adding 7,500.
And another 5,000, another 5%.
No, that's what I'm
See,
asking.
this is where you're not
That's
listening to
I'm
what you're
asking.
being told.
So it's 7,500
7,500
plus the
total.
initial 5% plus 1.25, and whatever else you're giving it, that's all inclusive of the 7,500.
Correct.
It's not
That's
that
correct.
plus.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
And to Frank's point, we would not get anybody with her experience or even someone to take the job at the current salary. We've had that problem in other departments.
Correct.
Okay, moving forward, Devin.
Okay, resolution number 3 authorizes amendment number 3 to the 2023 preliminary budget. Number 4 authorizes amendment number 4 to the 2023 preliminary budget. Number 5 authorizes amendment number 5 to the 2023 preliminary budget. And number 6 authorizes amendment number 6 to the 2023 preliminary budget. Number 7, cancels letter of credit posted by Bating Hollow Development Group LLC in connection with the residential subdivision entitled Bating Hollow Club, water key money only. Number 8, appoints a senior wastewater treatment plant operator 2. Number 9, awards request proposal for renewable energy technology project to CVE North America, Inc. Number 10, Water District Capital Project Number 82124, budget adoption. Number 11, awards bid rehabilitation of Route 58 elevated storage tank, Riverhead Water District Capital Project Number 10. Number 12, approves fireworks application for Bating Hollow Club November 26, 2022. Number 13, approves a local law to override the tax levy limit established by and set forth in Article 2, Section 3C of the General Municipal Law. Number 14, adopts a local law amending Chapter 301 of the Riverhead Town Code entitled Chapter 301, Zoning and Land Development, Part 3, Supplementary Regulations, Article, Frank, help me. 53. Number 15, approves expenditure of community preservation funds for the joint acquisition between the County of Suffolk and Town of Riverhead for parcel located in the Town of Riverhead known as Sawmill Creek Addition. Number 16, Water District Capital Project Number 82113, Norfolk Developers Budget Adoption. Number 17, appoints an automotive equipment operator. Number 18, Water District Capital Project Number 82224, Holly Tree Subdivision Budget Adoption. Number 19, Water District Capital Project Number 82225, Ostad Subdivision Budget Adoption. Number 20, appoints a maintenance mechanic 2. Number 21, appoints a driver messenger. Number 22, street lighting capital project number 95001, closure. Number 23, extends bid contract for well and pump service to the Riverhead Water District. Number 24, Riverhead Sewer District budget transfer. Number 25, authorizes the town clerk to publish and post notice to bidders for general hardware items. Number 26, extends bid nunc-pro-tunc for Dow Flag Extra 83 to 87% calcium chloride or equal. Number 27, awards rebid for test well program Phase 2, Contract A, installation of monitoring wells Contract B, installation of test boring Riverhead Water District Capital Project Number 4, RDWD 1804. Number 28, Riverhead Sewer District Capital Project Number 82226, budget adoption. And number 29, Riverhead Sewer District Capital Project Number 82227, budget adoption.
I just want to go back to resolutions 1 through 6, because we just blew right through them, but just to have, Bill, if you could just do a little explanation on each one.
Sure.
2 we discussed, but 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Okay.
Public has no idea what we're talking about when we just read the title.
Okay, so number 1 is an increase of 2 automotive equipment operators in the highway fund, okay?
Those were 2
That was
employees we talked about that,
Back in
with
February.
Highway taking over the EPCAL roads, that we would provide 2 more employees to the Highway Department, and that's what that is.
That's correct.
Okay.
And unfortunately, that wasn't brought up during the budgets, and we met with Highway,
Yeah, it
but now
wasn't,
we're
I
just,
know.
yeah, it wasn't, so, and I wish it was, because we didn't have to do a resolution. Again, that's the purpose of going through this extensive process. It was brought to our attention, and then now it went in, so that was the
Well, the
purpose.
thing is, you were willing to discuss it and add it to your budget. I mean, we as a board knew we wanted to do that, but it wasn't brought up by the appropriate department head at the time.
Yeah, it wasn't, yeah, so it
but I
was
think-
long overdue, yeah.
Learning mistake in that situation.
Yeah, well,
You know
they,
what I mean?
but that was done on the GEO, so there should have been, the process should have started, unfortunately.
It should have.
Yeah,
It
never
should have.
started
I
under
agree.
the last superintendent also.
agree.
So there was a neglect on that end, and again, it wasn't discussed during the budget, but now we found the need to do that, and it's appropriate because we all, the entire board agreed to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, number 2, as you said, we discussed. Number 3 is an increase to the general fund electricity, based on the contract with,
The Kanakaki.
Peconic Hockey. I don't have it in my copy, but I did put it in the final one.
And again, that one wasn't brought up to me. I understand that they were looking for community benefit money, and I thought maybe for the first year, that's where it should have gone, so we didn't have to raise taxes. Again, it just came up a couple of days ago that we're looking for $150,000, but if
Come up
that,
just a couple days ago, you can't rely on grant money, and you have to, what if you don't get the grant money?
Oh, no,
What do you
no.
do, close it down? and
yeah,
shut
it wasn't
down?
grant money. No, it was a community benefit that we're about to get, but in either case,
You can't rely, until you actually get the money, you can't
We-
rely on it, you have to have money, you gotta
we
be
do have some
protected.
community benefit money, so I didn't like the concept of, for the first year to, I'm just having a discussion, okay? To not raise the taxes on the $150,000, take it out of the community benefit. However, again, that was something that was brought up after the budget, and
Well,
so
and if
they
the-
need to do it, it's there now for every year, so we'll move that
If
forward.
the community benefit money comes in, then this money goes in surplus, and it's less taxes next year, it's
No,
not.
actually, I don't even think that's, because we discussed this with it, this is really for utilities. So you wouldn't use community benefit money for utilities. Utilities are part of your budget structure of your operational costs of the town. So it wouldn't necessarily fit the category, I don't believe. They'll correct me if I'm
Well,
wrong.
community benefit funds, I guess we like what we use that for, so I guess it could be for that.
If we change the right,
If- if-
okay.
It's to
Okay.
support any aspect of a community, but in either case, it's in and it's in now for, every year.
Okay, so number 4 is actually for the Riverhead Sewer District specifically. There's 2 projects that both Riverhead Sewer District needed done. One of them he was taking out of ARPA money. I think that's Cranberry Street. And another improvement was the Freeze Pump Station, and there was no money left in ARPA or anything to do that, so he asked if he can take it out of his fund balance. According to our fund balance policy, we need to maintain 15%. In calculating what that was going to do, it was going to reduce his fund balance by about $75,000 under the 15%. And our policy says the board needs to then have a plan to get it back to 15%. That's what this is, getting his fund balance back to 15% according to.
And Bill, when did we become aware of that? Obviously, it wasn't doing the budget again, just recently, correct?
Yeah, Michael had asked for the 2 projects. I don't know where he was expecting to get them from. I think maybe
Right.
from ARPA. We sat down with him, you had given him, said we had enough money in
Right,
ARPA
so
for
we had to
one,
make
but
an
not the other,
adjustment.
and I guess that's when he says, well, I'll take it from fund balance. He was not aware that that was gonna take him below the 15% until I went through the numbers with him.
Yeah.
And that's why this came up.
And that's very important that we maintain that, so that's fine.
That was number 4. Number 5, this is the Calverton Sewer District, and this is for an increase of someone who's going from a trainee to an operator. I'm not sure why it didn't get in there initially. I don't know if it was the timing of it and he didn't pass the test. I forget
Yeah, I
the
think that's what
details.
it was when I met with him. He said that he had just gotten his certification, and
Right,
that's
yeah.
why there was a change to the last minute.
So this is something that he's due contractually upon
Right.
passing that. So you'll probably see that resolution this year now that he's eligible, and this is to fund it for next year. And that's in the Calverton Sewer District. Okay. And the last one is number 6. And this is for a fire inspector. This one is the general fund also. It's for a fire inspector in the general fund, starting next year.
Right, we're looking to replace a fire marshal due to one leaving the job. And then this is in addition to that, to add a fire inspector in next year's budget to help them get caught up with their inspections.
And hopefully they will, because it'll move up a little bit with the inspections.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill, for taking that time. Well, thank you, Deb. Oh, she's gone. In a moment, I'm going to ask you for a first and a second to enter executive session to discuss the following: personnel matters surrounding the investigation of the behavior of an employee, and that will be with Ray Coyne, and contractual matters surrounding contractual agreement between the town of Riverhead and the Vale Levitt Music Hall, and that will be Howard and Thomas. And can I please have a first and a second to close this work session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So move. Everyone, please stay safe and enjoy the great weather.